المتعلمين في الغد الثلاثة. Although much has been achieved over the past years, many Mu'tazilite textual materials still remain unexplored. Among the documents to be found in the various Geniza collections, the material that originates in the Ben Ezra Geniza in Cairo and is nowadays mostly preserved in the Taylor Schechter collection at Cambridge University Library in England is until now still largely unidentified and only rudimentarily catalogued. It is to be expected that a systematic study of all Mu'tazilite fragments will render the reconstruction of many more so far lost Mu'tazilite, Muslim and Jewish material possible. As such, this Geniza material would significantly supplement the extensive findings of the Geniza material found in the Kirchhoff collection in St. Petersburg, which likewise has so far only partly been explored. Moreover, it is only during the last years that the vast holdings of the various private and smaller public libraries of Yemen are being made available to the scholarly community, mainly through the efforts of the Zayd ibn Ali Cultural Foundation. While some of these materials have been used for various publications by members of the Mu'tazilite Manuscripts Project Group, the majority still awaits close study. This also applies to the development of Mu'tazilite thought among the Zaydis from the 12th century onwards. The study of Samaritan literary activities in Arabic in general and of Samaritan Mu'tazilism in particular is still very much at the beginning. The only relevant text which has been partly edited and studied is the Kitab al-Tubah by the 11th century author of Hassan al-Suri, who clearly shares the Mu'tazilite doctrinal outlook. This deplorable state of research is all the more astonishing as the conditions for a systematic investigation of Samaritan theological thought are ideal. A microfilm collection containing virtually the entire extant literary legacy of the Samaritans, written in Arabic, is owned by the Library of the Institute of Arabic and Semitic Studies of the Free University of Berlin. While modern research on Mu'tazila had begun relatively late, research on Asharism started already in the 19th century as more manuscripts of Asharite texts are preserved in European libraries than is the case with Mu'tazilite texts. In 1876, Wilhelm Spitta published the first monograph on the eponymous founder of the movement, and in 1889, Martin Schreiner published the first extended historical survey of the Ashariya. Juwayni's Kitab al-Irshad was first published in 1938 in a critical edition by Jean Luciani, together with a translation into French. Major landmarks in the 20th century were the publications of Richard McCarthy. In 1953, he published a monograph containing critical editions and translations of most of Ash'ari's extant writings, and in 1957 he published a critical edition of Abaqilani's Kitab al-Tamhid. An in-depth historical study of the development of the school up to the time of Juwayni was made by Michel Allard, who had also published critical editions of two texts by Juwayni. Additional advances in recent decades were made by the numerous studies of Richard Frank and Daniel Gemoré. And in addition to the efforts of Western scholars, many scholars in the Islamic world have also contributed significantly to the research of this movement. This progress notwithstanding, many desiderata in the scholarly investigation of the Ash'ariya still remain, particularly with respect to the earlier phase of the movement prior to Ghazali. Of the two most prominent theologians of that period, Baqilani and Juwayni, we possess so far only a very limited number of writings, and in both cases the respective major work, Hidayat al-Mustarshidin of Baqilani and Kitab al-Shamil of Juwayni, is only partly extant, as far as we know today. Moreover, many other theologians of this period whose writings contain highly valuable information on the doctrinal outlooks of the various representatives of the earliest phase still remain unedited and unstudied. To what extent these texts can revolutionize research can be learned from Ibn Furak's Mujarrad Maqalat al-Ash'ari. It was published in 1987 by Daniel Gemoré, on the basis of a single extant manuscript preserved in Medina, and on this basis he was able to write his so far unsurpassed study on the doctrinal thought of the founder of the movement. Moreover, Juwayni's Kitab al-Irshad, the summary of his larger Kitab al-Shamil, gave rise to a number of commentaries by some of his students and later followers, as is evident, for example, from the partially extant commentary by Abu Qasim Salman ibn Nasir al-Nisaburi al-Ansari al-Rundia fi Kalam, manuscript in Istanbul. Juwayni's otherwise mostly lost Kitab al-Shamil was frequently used and often paraphrased by the authors of those commentaries. We also possess a manuscript containing a summary of the text by an anonymous author entitled Al-Kamil fi Ikhtisar Shamil. Again, it's Topkapi. The Kitab al-Shamil is also frequently cited in the Theological Summa by another student of his, Al-Qiya al-Hafasi, which is likewise extant in manuscript in Cairo. An in-depth search of all catalogued Arabic manuscript collections will no doubt bring to light a considerable amount of new material. Approximately all extant writings of the first generation of Christian Mutakallimun writing in Arabic have been edited and partly translated, and modern scholars such as Sidney Griffith and David Thomas have studied them in detail. Likewise, all of the few extant anti-Christian writings by Muslim rational theologians have been published in critical edition. By contrast, much work still needs to be done on the vast corpus of Coptic Christian writings, only few of which have so far been published in critical editions, let alone studied. It is this corpus that still needs to be made available in critical edition and to be studied in order to locate them within the whirlpool of intellectual history in the medieval world of Islam. What should be the next step in research is a focus on theological rationalism in the medieval world of Islam beyond and across denominational borders. Within this field, all major desiderata should be identified and be addressed in a number of well-defined projects. The point of departure should be the two major theological strands that originated within Islam but have left their mark on rational theology among Jews and Christians alike, namely Mu'tazilism and Asharism. The followers of the three denominations constituted a unique cultural and intellectual commonality in the medieval world of Islam. They shared Arabic and at times also Persian as their common language, and often read the same books so that a continuous multidimensional exchange of ideas, texts, and forms of discourse was the norm rather than the exception. This widely accepted historical reality notwithstanding, scholars still usually opt for a one-dimensional approach with an often exclusive focus on either Muslim, Jewish, or Christian authors and their writings along the established boundaries between three main disciplines of academia and research, namely Islamic studies, Jewish studies, and the study of Eastern Christianity. This pattern should be replaced with the multidimensional interdisciplinarity that is justified by the historical reality of the periods and regions under investigation. Moreover, in such an endeavor, one should also seek to connect between the leading researchers in the field, who are not only separated by the established disciplinary boundaries, but also by political ones. Closer cooperation should be sought with researchers from the West, including Israel and the Islamic world, so as to create a new quality within research.